Hi, everyone, and welcome to ESL 001 Reading Actively Context Clues. This is the first review for Unit 2 of Saylor Academy's ESL 001 course. If you haven't started the course yet, feel free to go to Saylor.org right now. You can look at ESL 001. You can get started. You can also check our old YouTube videos. We did four reviews of Unit 1 that you can check out, and also make sure you check out our discourse discussion forums. And of course, if you have any questions during the stream, feel free to leave them in the chat. Also, answers to questions we may have, and leave a comment down below if you have questions for later. But now I'll hand it over to our teacher Krista to get us started while I try and figure out what's going on in the back end here.
Good morning. Hello, everyone. Welcome to ESL 001, Reading Actively Context Clues. I'm excited to work with all of you today, and let's get started. So some reading strategies, as you know, when you're reading English, it can be confusing when you're looking at, the words and the sentences and trying to understand what specific words mean and how to put them all together. So we're going to talk about some reading strategies. They include, as you'll see here, skimming, previewing and prediction, scanning, and summarizing context clues. So these are some of the different things that we'll encounter as we're practicing reading strategies. And all of these come together in steps so that we can get as much information from what we're reading as possible. So the question we can start with is, what can you do when you are reading and you see a new unfamiliar word? Some of the things, and it'd be great if you guys could share some of the things that you're encountering when you're reading English and you find a word that you don't know and how you kind of try to figure it out. And as you're kind of thinking about that, some of the things that you can kind of focus on are, you can always highlight a word that's unfamiliar. You can annotate or write in the side margin, the meaning of the word. You can keep a separate place where you write down the definition and refer back to that. But there's also ways to look at what the context or where the word is actually placed in a paragraph or in a sentence to help you figure it out. Mike, do we have anyone sharing any strategies that they use? Yeah, and I have students who actually will use their cell phone and have that dictionary app on it or something similar to call up that word and be call up an unfamiliar word and be able to take a look at it. So great response there. We're also going to take a look at some of the strategies you can use when maybe you don't have access to that information. So what is a context clue? And basically what we're talking about are ways to figure out what a word means, or maybe a phrase even, in a body of text, and to help you kind of piece that together, from what you're able to kind of see in the text. So let's take a look. A context clue is a word or phrase in the same sentence or nearby sentence that helps the reader determine the meaning of an unfamiliar word. So a lot of times when we're hearing people talk or we're reading something new, we may try to gain an understanding by reading past the word or phrase and reading the rest of the body of text to try to figure out what it means. And sometimes that's effective if we put certain things in place. Let's take a look. So there's certain types of context clues. Take a look at these. A synonym clue. Uh, it's a word with the same or similar meaning to an unfamiliar word. So if you come across the word in a sentence or in a paragraph that you're not sure of, look to see if there is a synonym clue, if there's kind of an explanation of what it might mean. And we can see this in the example here. He would never reveal or share our secret. So reveal or share, that's the synonym clue. So we're looking at, how those two come together to kind of make the same or give the same meaning, basically. The contrast clue is a word or phrase that has the opposite meaning of the unfamiliar word. This is also known as an antonym. So you might find this, in one sentence you'll find the unfamiliar word, and in the next sentence you may find the contrast clue, which gives us an understanding of the word we're not sure of simply by sharing an opposite meaning. So let's take a look at that. Here we have, he would never reveal his feelings. Instead, he hides them deep within himself. So we can see that, in the first sentence, reveal is kind of confusing, right? It's an unfamiliar word. But then we look in the second one, we see hide. And in that case, that helps us understand through that contrast clue what reveal means. In definition clue, the unfamiliar word is defined within the sentence or in a sentence nearby. So this is what we always hope to find, right? What we're reading and we get stuck on a word we don't know. We're hoping that just somewhere in that paragraph or the next few sentences, we'll find, the clue that will give us the definition. So it really means the unfamiliar word is defined with the sentence nearby, of course. Etymology, the study of the origin of words, is a popular subject at many universities. So you can see here with the first unfamiliar word, you'll have the second phrase, the study of the origin of words. That's the definition clue, and that's what you should look for in your sentence where that unfamiliar word appears, or even in the following sentence. The example clue is a word or phrase that includes examples of the unfamiliar word. So we have the first sentence here, the boy feels elated. Now we read the word elated, we say, what does that mean? And is it a good word? Is it a bad word? Is the boy happy? Is he sad? What does that mean? And then we look at the next sentence and we have he's smiling, laughing, and jumping around. So we know that means, possibly extreme happiness, joy, and so on. The experience clue, a reader can draw upon their background knowledge and personal experience to determine the meaning of the unfamiliar word. Beware of that tree, it is old and might fall over soon. So you can see here, talking about that tree in that first sentence, how it then affects the understanding when you see it is old and might fall over soon. So that understanding of, using the experience clue can actually help you, get an understanding of that unfamiliar word as well. So you always want to look for clues. You always want to look in the sentences that follow in the same sentence, maybe even further on in the paragraph to make sure that, you're putting these into place so that you can possibly find that meaning, right? So if we don't have Google available or we don't have other resources or we're trying to really increase our vocabulary, these are some of the ways that we can do that. So we're going to have you do a quick practice here. Okay. Read the following sentences and define each word in bold using the context clues. Then identify which type of context clue is used. Okay. So let's see if you guys, after my quick explanation, can kind of put that into practice here. So you're going to try to define each word. and see if you can find that context clue. And we'll take a look at that in just a moment. All right, everyone, let's move forward. Okay. So we're going to take a look, of course, at the first sentence, and we see that word in bold. Okay. And then let's take a look at what it means. So, contravene means to break or violate. The context clue is a definition clue, and you can see that where it says break or violate. Okay, following that, did anyone have any answers yet, Mike? Before I kind of.
I'm keeping an eye on the chat right now. We did have a little connection disturbance, so people might be slightly behind, but
Okay.
I'll let you know.
Okay, great. All right, so we have this next sentence. All right, the definition after someone's death. Okay, and we can see, let's just take a look at how we can kind of piece this together. We see in the beginning of the sentence, following his death, Heath Ledger, we have that word, which is the unknown word, received an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor as the Joker in The Dark Knight. So we know that he's received an award after his death, so we can kind of put it together that it means after someone's death, of course. The context clue here is a synonym clue, right? Because it's showing us the same meaning of a word in the actual sentence. So you can piece it together by simply taking that first phrase out, looking at that closely, and then putting it together. Like, yes, that would mean he's no longer alive, so it's after his death. I don't appreciate your duplicity. I expect you to give me an honest response. So if you're reading these two sentences together, you may be confused by what duplicity means. Is that someone who's, giving a negative response? Is that someone who's unsure of their response? What does that mean? And then when you look at the second sentence, you see, I expect you to give me an honest response, right? So the expectation is there, and we know from the first sentence that the person's not doing that. So we have the definition, duplicity, dishonest behavior. And the context clue here would be the contrast clue. So you can see that in the honest response showing what duplicity means because that's not what's being done. Okay. So if you kind of look, like if you first read that word and you say to yourself, I'm not sure I'll ever know what that word means, continue to read, continue to use some of these strategies to help you break it down. Bats, owls, raccoons, and crickets are mostly nocturnal creatures. So if we look at nocturnal, we're probably thinking, well, what does nocturnal mean? Is that an animal that has a certain characteristic? How does that define these animals as a whole? Okay, we have, of course, this knowledge that bats are at night or active mostly at night, owls are out at night, raccoons. So we can kind of piece it together that it means night, active mainly during the night. All right, and sometimes it won't be all that clear, but in this case, we're able to break it down a little bit and take a look at how we might be able to define that word. The context clue here is an example clue, all right, because we're showing all these different animals. Like if you're outside at night, you may hear crickets. You probably wouldn't hear them, during the day all that often, or so on. And that's how we kind of break it down. It would be an egregious mistake to wear a dirty T-shirt and blue jeans to a funeral. So right away we have this word right there at the beginning. We know that it's helping us understand what kind of mistake is being made, and helping us understand the depth of that mistake. And then to share to wear a dirty T-shirt and blue jeans helps break it down even more. All right, so we know that it's a bad thing. It's not a positive thing. Simply, mistakes in there. We're able to kind of break it down in terms of it being something negative, of course. And if we also understand something about funerals, we know that they're somewhat formal, and of course we would be appropriately dressed for that. So this really shares an experience clue, okay? Because we have this background knowledge, we have this understanding of how bad this would be to actually do this at a funeral. How we doing, Mike? Do we have any questions or?
Oh, we're doing okay. We had someone had submitted the answer of break or violate.
Okay. Good job. Keep going, guys. I really appreciate your participation. All right, so read the text below. Use context clues to try to determine the meaning of the underlined words. Okay. So we're going to just have you go through here. And again, just apply the knowledge that we've been taking, apply the strategies that we've been taking a look at and see if you can figure out the meaning. All right, we'll discuss this in just a moment.
Remember, everyone, you can put your answers into the chat below.
So let's take a read back.
Yeah, good job. We have some answers in the chat for number one, flabbergasted. We have surprised, uh, and we also have amazed.
Okay, very good. And let's just take a quick look. The sentence is, at first her parents were flabbergasted, utterly blown away by their daughter's ability, but soon they got used to their little painter. So very good for anyone who put greatly surprised. Um, Amazed is also within that realm because the parents are completely blown away. They're completely taken again by surprise, but also we are experiencing something unexpected and finding out what they did. So you have in here utterly blown away, which is a synonym clue, but soon they got used to it, the contrast clue. Now remember too, it's not imperative that you know how to name every context clue, but where to find them, right? So what I'm showing you today is a way to identify the different context clues and how to locate them in what you're taking a look at and reading, because that's going to help you understand what it is that you're reading in greater depth. So dexterity. Um, and let's just take a quick look at that. Her preschool teacher said that Maggie's dexterity or ease with which she used her hands was something she had never seen before in such a young child. Whoops. So skill in using one's hands, the context clues, or ease with which she used her hands. So that, remember, is the definition clue, which is always, the fun one to find because it automatically gives you that clear-cut answer of what that word means. So hopefully some of you are able to pick up on that. The next one, which is gloated, we'll take a look at that one. Little Maggie never gloated or took pride in her paintings. She just smiled contentedly when she finished one and requested her parents give it to someone as a gift. So we're trying to find out what gloated means, because little Maggie's not doing that, but she's smiling contentedly. So what does that mean? Do we have some in the chat?
I'll keep an eye out on the chat.
Okay. So gloated basically means to show you are happy with your own success in a selfish or unattractive way. Gloating is that expression someone has where they are feeling really good about what they did, but in an unattractive way, like look at what I did and you can't do what I do, sort of thing. The context clues or took pride in is a definition clue. So we're able to see how that can be defined basically by reading more and by taking a look at what's within that sentence and also in the paragraph. Contentedly, remember we that was something that she did. So contentedly means happily, okay? Smiled, which would be the experience clue. So if someone's smiling, you know that that's a good thing, right? So they're happy or they're at peace or they're pleased. So that can help us break it down into more detail what contentedly means. And then we have this last one. And let's see if you can figure out what that word means. Okay. So we have, of course, the understanding that it means open. But if we go back and take a look at the second part, but her parents always kept their mouths closed and simply smiled over their little Monet. Okay, so we have that clue right there to help you break it down into more detail. All right, so that's the contrast clue. If you take a look at, if you're wondering um, what it means. It just means, having your mouth open, and then the second part, of course, um, means means the contrast, which means the opposite. So you're able to kind of piece it together by simply looking at the rest of the text and also that sentence. So I hope that this helps you in understanding how to break down the different ways to understand an unknown word. We have a lot of resources available, but the context clues really give us a better understanding of what a word means. Now, the thing to remember is all of us, when we're using context clues, aren't going to be 100% correct all the time, but this will get us closer to a better understanding so that as we're reading, um, we're able to get more out of the reading and, of course, apply that in our understanding of what we're taking a look at. So hopefully this helps you better understand how to get more meaning out of what you read. Any final questions from
So
anyone?
I think we have one question. We could have not really a question, but someone proposed the answer to number three. Uh, that is pride, and I think that there could maybe be like a little bit of explanation of context clues of like the difference between like being proud, but like being gloating or being like overly proud about yourself, kind of situation. I'll let you do the English explanations.
I think that's a great summation there. I think gloating isn't a positive. It's not a positive word really. It means something undesirable, but it does mean, of course, being proud, but being proud in a way that's not attractive because it's not humble. It's just kind of um, being happy with one's own success and having that mind perspective of everyone around me can't do as well as I can. I think that's what we kind of in hearing that word gloated consider. Like someone saying, "Oh yeah, I did this wonderful thing, and no one can do it as well as I can." So I think that that's um, a great way to kind of take a look at it. And being proud, of course, I mean, it could definitely be associated with that. But being proud has a more positive connotation, whereas as gloated has the sense of someone who's, just taking pride and thinking that, they certainly are better than those around them in some way. Okay. So in a selfish or unattractive way, that's basically what that means. So great question.
Yeah, and we have a follow up question too. Can gloated be used positively? I don't think so. I think negative every time I think gloat. Like it's the team that celebrates a little too much after they win the match, and you kind of want them to lose the next one because they're a bit much. I think is maybe a way to think about it.
Yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, gloated generally has not a very positive connotation. It's just not something that, it doesn't mean it's totally negative because, um, it's kind of associated with being happy, right? But it's as 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 we see here in a selfish or unattractive way. Someone who's gloating is not considered very attractive. You're right. Like a team that gloats is definitely a team that isn't as attractive or as admired really because of the way that they are presenting themselves. So it's basically a negative connotation. So great question. I
And
appreciate
and just the comments. Yes, yes. Bullies often gloat. Yes.
that's great. I love that. Yes.
Yeah, so I think that that answered the questions we had here in the chat for people. Um, yeah, so I guess if there are no other questions, I'll just vamp for a second while we wait and see if any other questions come in. But thank you everyone for joining us again. If you haven't watched any of our other videos, we did 4 reviews of Unit 1. We'll be back here in 2 weeks for the next review of Unit 2. Make sure you go to Saylor.org and look up Spanish 001, and you can catch up with us and start watching these. And there will be a playlist link below if you want to watch them again. And of course, you go to our discourse discussion forums and you can talk to people who are taking the class along with you. Again, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. Thank you for being engaged. Of course, Krista, thank you very much for your lovely teaching. And if there's, it doesn't seem to be anything else in the chat. So, Chris, if you have any parting words, we'll we'll send this out and we'll see everyone in 2 weeks.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone joining today.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good day.